Then I started becoming a bit irritable, lonely and
Mm.
sad. The vivid nightmares. I would then struggle to sleep. I want to black out, but I can't black out. From then on, I started spiraling down because I have a wife, I have children, I have all these. It is night shift after night shift.
Very, very
Exactly.
high pressure environment.
But then I
Yeah.
still had it within me of I needed to get the best out of myself. And I felt like that
Mm.
12 cesarean section alone on one table, like you
Mm.
leave the duty and you're drained. I think my body failed.
It's like a horror. People are crying, blood everywhere.
Exactly. I can't fail. I can't fail. I have to do this.
Did you have like suicide thoughts?
Close my door, but I would have to close it for the next 1 hour. I would wake up sweating and scared, and it's like I've been running, yet I was sleeping.
Yeah.
So I was suffering, but I think it wasn't clear for people to know that I was actually suffering. So, because if I write letter A, I want it in a certain way. That's when I got out and started crying, and I was like, okay, even when I knew that certain things were unpleasant, I couldn't control them.
That's why they call an obsession. So your compulsion was two, because no sooner have you
Mhm.
done it, then you have to do it over and over and over and over again. Equals OCD.
That's when I walk over to a psychiatrist and tell them all this stuff because we've been built to endure. So I felt like, what I'm enduring, everyone else is enduring.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sissy if you're new here. My name is still Sissy. I don't know why I do that intro. I'm sorry, I know it doesn't make sense. But yes, my name is Sissy. I'm a Ugandan medical doctor. I'm a psychiatrist based in the UK. And I am doing a series currently sharing mental health experiences. And I'm very excited to have here Buhamizo, who is my OB from medical school. And he's going to be sharing his experiences with his mental health, really, just to try and raise awareness and to inspire somebody out there, because there will be someone watching this video who has either gone through this, or who is going through this, or who is going to go through this, and you just don't know it yet. Because such is life, that you just don't know what's coming. And so I'm hoping to that by sharing Buhamizo's story, then he can share what was helpful for him or what he finds helpful, and hopefully you can also get some inspiration from that. So thank you so much, Buhamizo, for meeting me on such short notice with such a busy schedule. You are a dad, you're a husband, you're an obstetrician, you're so busy, so I really don't take it for granted. Yeah, I thought the first thing would be for you to first introduce yourself as, I think I've tried to, but you can tell us, who is Buhamizo Ainembabazi?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sisi. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. And like I've always said, it's always a blessing to just have a one-on-one with you. And thank you once again, like I already said, for the very amazing work that you do for humanity through this. I speak from within because I know what this is like. So anyway, first things first, I am Buhamizo Ainembabazi. Just into my 30s, early 30s, if I may say. So I have, I'm a husband to a very beautiful girl called CY, and we have very amazing children, a son and two daughters. Um, so that's 7, 5, and 2. And so I practice as an obstetrician, gynecologist. I just qualified recently. That was so I received my degree at the end of 2003, 2023. Not 2003, but 2023. So
Yes.
yeah, so I've been practicing as an obstetrician gynecologist now for 1 year, if you want to say.
Mm,
It's been a little tough, not what I think I envisioned to do in life, but that's where I am, and it's part of the realizations that I've got to live with and maybe try to see if I can, change course or stuff like that. That's another thing
you
altogether
mean
for
the
me. But
actual career is the one that has been not what you always wanted?
yeah, certainly yes.
Oh,
I
oh,
am
okay.
I am now more than sure about that than ever. Yeah, that I am not where I think I ought to have been. So
Mm,
but nonetheless,
mm,
I have to go out there and work hard and put food on
mm,
table. So here I am.
mm.
And I love it. I love it that I take care of mothers and their children, and of
Mm,
course, women issues. I love it when they
mm,
feel, I was of help to them, but I don't think it gives me the all-round satisfaction that I always wanted in life. But that's okay. That's who I
yeah.
am.
For now,
I,
that's
I
who you are for
can, yeah,
now. It's the
yeah.
phase of life you're in now. Were you
Yeah.
also forced to do medicine, or what's your story? Although I know that's not the point, but just tell us briefly. Were you forced to
No,
do
that's a good one,
medicine?
Sissy. That's a
Mm,
good one. Yeah. So yeah, medicine was never me. It's like it's now coming through much more loud than it ever was. I concealed it for the time I was at med school, I think. But those who know me, I think Ernest Naturinda, who is a OB as well, an alumnus of Macquarie. Yeah,
yeah.
those who I left entire school with, they know for a fact that medicine was never me. So
What
because
was
medicine was actually my
medicine?
third choice.
Ah,
Yeah, when we're filling those public university joint
yeah,
admissions board, blah, blah. So it
yeah.
was my third choice. My first was electrical, my second was civil engineering. So, but I missed out
Mm,
on those because I always blame it on the fact that I did biology at A level. So because I had to do PCB math, physics, chemistry, biology, and math, and balance up the act, biology didn't go well for me. So it
mm,
kind of cut on my weights, which would have
mm.
enabled me to do my preferred course.
Course.
Because I
Mm,
missed electrical engineering government sponsorship by zero point 0.2 weights, I remember.
yeah.
And that was because I had a poor grade in biology.
Mm,
So if I'd done something else, say economics or French,
yeah.
stuff like that, I'm sure I would not be here as a doctor,
Yeah.
really. I would be here as someone different. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
what I suffer from would not have changed, but I
Yeah.
would be as a different. Yeah. So what happened really quickly on that is
Yeah.
when we did UCE, that's in 2007, that's still
Yeah.
Tare school. That year, we were given combinations to pursue at A level, still in
Mm,
entire school. So they gave me PCB math, physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics. Now, as true to heart, I declined the combination. So I quickly removed the biology and put, I think, was it economics or something?
mm,
But when my father realized that I'd removed biology and they thought I was brilliant and they thought the family would now have it, I was here
mm,
shying away from that. So the intervention went through the school academics and they basically imposed the biology on me. I have no shame in
yeah.
saying this. So I ended
Mm,
up doing biology. I didn't like it, but it shows you that even when we're filling the forms, I still didn't want to do medicine. That's why it
yeah.
counts as that choice. But anyway, as God would perhaps purpose it to be, I ended
Yeah.
up getting medicine on government sponsorship. So here I am.
Yeah.
So for me, medical school was really never fun. Yeah, I labored through it. I tried to just, do stuff. So, but it's
Mm,
caught up with me eventually. I think I've over labored to be what I am not supposed to be, or what I feel like
mm,
I don't want to be.
yeah.
Yeah, so reading
Um,
medicine and textbooks and stuff. Yeah,
mm,
it always reminds me of who I would be if I focused on mathematics and physics and stuff.
mm,
So then was still I go on and do obstetrics and gynecology at
yeah.
Master of Medicine residency. It was the hardest time of my life. Anyway, that's where my story begins from
Yeah.
because I think when kind of like tipped over, really. Yeah.
So actually, I was listening to a podcast by Dr. Rang and Chatterjee. I'll send you the actual episode, but in that episode, they were talking about it was about happiness and finding happiness and about how a lot of times, like you want to live a life that is true to yourself. One of the
Yeah.
regrets of the dying is they didn't live a life that was true to themselves. So meaning they didn't do
Yeah.
what they wanted. They did what was expected of them, that kind of thing.
Mm,
And one of the examples he was giving, because he's a doctor as well, he was saying that a lot of doctors, we like in your job, you can be good at your job, you're saving lives and what, but it's not what you wanted to do. And so that
yeah.
mismatch causes a lot of, first of all, internal stress, but also if you now move, let's say he was giving an example of someone who moved to something else that it was what he truly wanted, then he felt like he was doing more impact. So at the end of that day, Anyway, I just find it interesting that you're sharing this thing, which I'm sure a lot of people will relate. A lot of doctors, it's a lot of African doctors, because a lot of us also had African parents. Me, I've shared my story. My dad
Yeah,
was
sure,
shared how he forced
sure.
me into medicine. Some things I had forgotten, and you can watch them elsewhere on my channel. So, yeah, so you mentioned about how when you went for M-Med, Obs and Gynae, is when your mental health started to deteriorate. And
Yeah,
this is the second time we are attempting to make this video because we had a conversation before. And initially, I had been interested in your journey into M-Med Obsgyn. And then that's when I realized that actually it might be more helpful to share this other side of it, of how things went wrong for you and also how they came right again. And
yeah.
yeah, so tell us then what happened? You go for Obsgyn?
Yeah, yeah. So quickly, before I forget what you just talked about, Sissy, thank you so
Mm,
much yet again.
mm,
So every time, I think it also has something to do with the OCD. So every time I go to theater and I'm doing an operation, or everything I do for a patient, there is a bit of perfection attached to it. So people tend to like what I do. You know, you close the skin well, you do these
mm,
nice, neat repairs. So people like me for what I do. Every time I've been in places, they're like, we're proud of you. But you know, temporary, relief of, okay, people are happy with what I do. But inside me, I know this is not who I want to be.
mm,
So, so quickly, so I think I was lucky when we finished med school. So I did internship, and then yeah, that was also a bit difficult because it was really, really tough on me. But then the job I got at Ruhara Mission Hospital, really, which was a mission hospital here in Wara,
yeah.
so was really more of a chilled job for me. Um, I did more of the day duties, so I used to get sufficient sleep, if I should say. I was never good with the night duties. Yeah. So I
Mm,
always wanted to just be in my bed if it's nighttime. So, but anyway,
mm,
fast forward, work wasn't hard. And I think that's why I didn't realize that I was suffering. So I was able to do things the way I needed to do them, despite the other societal pressures that came along,
mm,
life, having a wife and having children and having, life to live. So MEd was really another thing of, I just have to add another degree. I didn't really want to go for an MEd, but fast forward 5 years down the road, I was like, I can't remain a medical officer. I will be nothing
mm,
and clearly, if you follow the landscape of practicing medicine in this country, then it's terrible. If you're a medical
mm,
officer here, you kind of like nothing really. Yeah. So
mm.
for me, an M-Med or a Master of Medicine was like going to be the bare minimum. So I remember just listing down all the M-Meds that are possibly available at
Yeah.
Makerere because I still wanted to go back to Makerere. And I remember crossing out all of them, all of them. Like
Mm.
I didn't pick any that I had interest in.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like it was that bad. So I listed them all down, internal medicine, surgery, and I slashed all of them. And I was like, okay,
Mm.
so that means I don't need to do a med. I love none of this stuff. But then nonetheless, because I was doing mostly obstetrics at work, so I ended up saying, you know what? Maybe this is, if I can't find something that I love, then I'm just
Mm.
going to do something which I think I can try to be good at. So that's how I end up in Sky.
Mm.
Luckily, I get in. So
No, first of all, you were not sure which M made to go for, but in the end, you
yeah,
decided to go for Obs Gyne since it's the one that you're working in anyway most of the time, even as an MO. And so you
yeah.
decided to go for that. And then,
Mm.
then what happens?
Yeah, yeah. So I really kind of like, so get in and oh my God. Now the orientation is what tipped me off, I think. From then on, I started spiraling down because as soon as we arrived, so there was this whole thing, they organized like an orientation meeting by the department. And people are telling you all these things, the senior residents, because it's a residency program. So you're expected
Yeah.
to be at it 100% of your time. So now I've left a wife behind in Barra and I've gone to Makerere because I don't think I can study from anywhere else other than Makerere. So because people encouraged me to go to Barra University, which was close, but I felt
Yeah.
like Makerere was home for me.
Mm.
So I have a wife, I have children, I have all these basics to take care of.
You're the main income earner for your family, even in this period.
I am the lone, not even main, lone
Mm.
income earner. Like
Mm.
it's either me or not me. So so like the orientation I remember, they're telling you you have to be here 100%, you have to do your lectures well. If you don't, then you can be sure you retake. This is not undergraduate. Life is hard. And then I'm back to Kampala and the noise and the rush that is in our Kampala. I'm from being in a very quiet environment in Bara. Now I'm in Kampala. It's all rush and harsh. And so like I had been in Kampala, yes, for undergraduate, you remember. So,
Yeah.
but it was kind of like a culture shock for me. Like I'm back to noise, I'm back. So I didn't
Mm.
know that me being in a quiet environment for 5 years beyond school had kind of kept me contained in my small box. Now, here I am
Mm.
being exposed to all these external pressures and influences. So, they tell us, you have to be on ward, you are going to do calls, call after call, no sleeping, and you have to read your books because there is anatomy, and the anatomy, you have three-quarters of the class that retook the course the previous year. So, and these are doctors, and you're thinking, okay, so here I am, I've come to retake things. So
Yeah.
I've come to fail. Like I brought myself to fail. Things are hard. So my mind
Mm.
didn't contain the whole idea of things are doable. It all boiled down
Mm.
in my mind to mean life is going to be hard and nothing but hard. So school is
Mm.
going to be tough, books are going to be tough. You have to do how many hour shifts that are unrelenting. So all that just then I think the second wave of COVID came in along the way somewhere there.
Mm.
So we start a med and it is night shift after night shift. There were actually not
Mm.
that many by them for us. Not like, okay, compared to the previous residents that had come through, at least
Yeah.
for us, we could get like, some 4 days of rest. But then 4 days of rest, I mean, you're only doing day duties and maybe not a call duty.
Yes.
Because a call duty meant, you were on day duty somewhere, running a ward that is endless, because we're training in a very high volume setting in Kawempe National
Yeah.
Referral Hospital.
Yeah.
So then you have to do a night shift and you have to be there on time. If you're 1 minute late, then that's a retake somewhere.
Mm. High
So
pressure. It was a lot of pressure. It sounds like very, very high
exactly.
pressure environment.
High pressure environment indeed. It was unbearable for me. So,
Mm.
but then, I was like, you know what? I've come in and my mind had told me I didn't do well as I would have wanted in undergraduate, like in our undergraduate degree.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I didn't do bad because, well, I think had a 3.8, but I felt like this time I needed to do well, like be me, because I was
And
not
yet
used to
it doesn't
failing.
matter. The funny thing is how it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly.
But also you
Exactly.
also had your own standards. It seems like there's your own internal high expectations of yourself.
Exactly. And these are expectations that have been imposed on us from when we were
Yes.
children.
Yes.
Yeah, you get 90% and your dad tells you no, there was 100 to get. So where is the other 10?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you always feel like you always feel like
You need to do better.
even with
Yeah.
yeah, so you always feel like even with the 3.8, even when it was good, you always feel like we have all these things that have been imposed on us. So you kind of feel like you set a standard, even when I had practiced as a medical officer. And honestly, I knew that I had done fairly well at undergraduate, okay, by the standards that were here.
Yeah.
And so that shouldn't even be an issue. But then I
Yeah.
still had it within me of I needed to get the best out of myself. And I felt like that.
Mm.
So I went hard. I tried to
Mm.
read. I tried to, even the little time I would get, rather than sleep and rest my body, I would rather read. And
Mm.
things were so many, you have all these questions being bombarded at you. Then you
Yeah.
have a night call to anticipate. Night calls were hell because, you do a night call from 5 to 8 and you've done 12 cesarean section alone on one table. Like you
Mm,
leave the duty and you're drained. Then I'm working in an environment that is dirty, it's all bloody, things, are not clean. So, and it's like the order of the day, because for me, I'd come from a setting of, it has to be clean. So one mother, after you finished the operation, the bed has to be prepared. They have to apply, a disinfectant, clean up, prepare, have nice, linen and stuff. But that wasn't
mm,
there. Finish one
mm.
woman and the next is already on their way. And you're all bloody. And I'm like, so the environment just killed me. Yeah. So what really happened was that eventually I think my body failed. And here is how I started noticing that it failed. I don't know whether we should go like straight to that.
No, so it sounds to me like you're describing the perfect storm, and it's also what we call in psychiatry the precipitating factors, which is why
Um,
has this person come to me today? Why are you unwell today? Like, what has happened? What has contributed to you getting this maybe breakdown in this moment? Because you've been living
oh,
your life,
yeah.
things have been okay, but something has happened now. So the precipitating factor
Yeah.
for you was going into that high pressure environment. And also, it sounds
Yes.
like the expectations they put on you as soon as you arrive, they are so negative, threatening.
Exactly.
Like the culture, me, I
Exactly.
remember because I also went to Macquarie University, and one of the worst rotations, I feel like, even before you go there, but you've heard about it, you come in anxious, was obstetrics and gynecology. By the time I
Yes.
came, it was our first clinical rotation. I remember we're in the same group. And like life became so
Yeah.
weird. For the first time, we were leaving the hospital like when it was dark, we would leave the hospital, then come
Yeah.
back at night. It's like we were staff, yet we were not. And then also, I
Yeah.
remember when you enter the ward, we talked about this before in our last conversation, but you remember it's like a nightmare. It's like a horror. People are crying, blood everywhere.
Exactly. It's a horror. Yes.
I remember one
Yes.
white girl, there were a lot of these exchange students crying on the ground.
Yeah.
It was like, what's going on? That she was so traumatized. So I feel like that gives an idea of what it actually is. Because as we have been in it for long, maybe it's normalized. But for a stranger coming
Exactly.
in, it's like, what is this? And now remember, you are also not like a stranger, but to some level, it was new to you on a higher intensity.
Yeah. Yes.
So you might have had maybe some predispositions, like some things put you at higher risk, which I think you will tell us later on. And maybe you had always been certain way, you had always been a certain way, but
Yeah.
now putting someone like that in
Yeah.
this environment, that didn't really help.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
can you help us, maybe tell us exactly what exactly happened? How did you start to realize that actually maybe you're not okay?
Thank you, Sissy. So really for me, what happened was uh I just got up at some point. These things you just don't realize them, I think, at a go. But I think it's because we've been built to endure. So I was enduring, and maybe I thought, and because the whole environment is so tensed and fast-paced, and so I felt like, what I'm enduring, everyone else is enduring. So you know
Yes,
what?
you're not the
I'm a
first.
tough boy.
Mm.
Exactly. So I'm like, I'm a tough boy. Let me hang in there and I'll do this. I've come. My wife expects good of me. My children expect I'm their hero. So I can't fail. I can't fail. I have to do this. So,
Mm.
but then I had been dragging, and here is how I know it. So a time comes, and even when I leave duty, because would leave night duty at 8 a.m., and you literally are like struggling to even find your way home. Like you're like dizzy and drunk and all. So, but every time I would get home, I would then struggle to sleep.
Mm.
I'm like, I'm tired. I have been working for the last 36 hours. I want to black out, but I can't black out. Yeah, so then now I started saying, so what happened? So then, of course, I think in the process, I would get up and then I would be more tired. Then I started becoming a bit irritable. Of course, my wife, may the good Lord bless her, because I think she's had to bear this. So I think she would call me and I would easily get irritable, don't give me like stuff like that. And so But so the things around me that used to please me started because I would love, for example, taking nature walks. I just get up, go through one day and get stroll through, and but then now I didn't want to. I just wanted to stay strictly inside in my small
Mm,
room with
mm,
my unwashed clothes, with my
mm,
unwashed utensils, with just in that space of being lonely and sad.
mm.
So I just that's
You
what
are
seemed to work for me.
self-isolating. Isolated yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've always known exactly, and I've always known myself to be a loner. But this time I could tell that I didn't even want to leave the four corners of my room.
Mm,
So, and then when that happened, now the vivid nightmares, I think were what tipped me over. Yeah, that's partly yes. Now,
yeah.
the little time I would get some 2 hours of sleep of blacking out, so I would see myself in a coffin, and then they would be digging a grave
Mm,
for me, and then they buried me, and then so I now at that point in time, I started becoming really sensitive to what do they call them? These places where they bury people. I don't know,
graves,
cemeteries or something like that.
cemeteries.
Graves, yes.
Mm,
So I would take the bus from Kampala to Mbarara, and my head would be through the window, looking for wherever I saw a grave.
mm-hmm. Like
So like,
so what was the
and
reason, or what did you feel like? So that what?
no, every time I would see a grave, I would relate to it.
Oh,
Yes. So I would relate to it. I would feel like,
yeah.
okay, but these people died just like, I'm also going to die, and this is how they
Mm,
buried them. And then so now that's when I realized that I was drawing images. So the imagery aspect of it. So I would undress them, like become like the real cops. So I
yes.
put myself in the grave and then
Mm,
replay what could have happened before what I see on top of the grave came up.
mm.
So
So it's
little did
like,
I know that,
go
yeah,
on, go on. Sorry.
little did I know that it wasn't just about the graves, it was about so many of the things I was doing. So I would see people walking along the street and I would stop. We can be walking like to class. So through one day again, I'm walking to med school. And if I see a girl, I will stop and undress them,
Mm,
like to skin.
mm.
Now draw them. And drawing, I don't mean like just in passing. I'm talking about detail. So you draw
Mental
how
image.
this person, exactly, how this person was actually created.
Mm,
So of course I haven't seen them because I've not undressed them like in reality or real life,
mm.
but my
In your
mind is
mind.
now hell-bent on reconstructing who they actually are based on
Mm,
what I've seen through their clothing.
mm,
Now, initially, I thought it was about the women. So
mm,
my wife suffered with that a bit because she always thought either I was lasting or I was,
mm.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Until I realized I was actually also doing it for the men.
It didn't matter.
Yeah, so it didn't matter who it was. So now that's extremely consuming. That would wear me down. Because if I'm trying to reconstruct someone, so I'm using human beings because that's what I think I related to most. But I did
Mm,
for so many things, even buildings, even graves,
mm.
even trees. So I did it for all sorts of things. So I'm only talking about human beings because that's what predominated my mind, I think,
Yes.
now that I
Yes.
look back.
Yeah. But even
And
building,
and
you
by the
start.
people need to
Mm,
yes, and by the people need to note that now I can ably talk about this because
mm,
I have tried to master a way of, even if those thoughts come, because even right now, as I talk to you, those thoughts come, but I've mastered ways of saying, you know what, it's just a thought. I
mm.
acknowledge it, but that's not the reality. So I'm able to like put it off, which I was not able to do then.
Yeah.
For me, everything was too serious. That's why people always told me that, Aine, you take things too serious. Yeah, so I would take small, small things too seriously, beyond the
Can you give
comprehension
us
of people
another
around me.
example? What do you mean of taking things too serious?
So of like MED is another good example. I did very well by the grace of God in the very
Mm,
first 3 semesters on my. I think I got the better grades than the rest of my class in most of the subjects. I was like the best. But that wasn't enough. So if I got 82 in a subject, say ethics, where I think I got 82, now for me that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So I would go around complaining to people who had beaten. Remember, I've beaten everyone in the subject. But then I would complain to them and tell them, I feel bad. How did I get 82? I wish I got
Mm,
85 or 90. And then people
mm,
wouldn't understand because for them, they didn't understand. Is he bragging? Is he?
mm,
But then I think some of them would quickly tell he's actually not comfortable. He's got a good mark, but he's not comfortable with it. And
mm,
then that's when I think a colleague, Emma, yeah, I remember her well, may she also be blessed, Amadrio. So
mm,
she was like, but Aine, you take things too seriously.
mm,
Oh, we're having a chat, someone talks about something, and it's not like pointed at me. But then I feel like I've been attacked, like personally.
mm.
Like someone says something general, but if I feel like it relates to me,
In
then
any way.
I take it
Mm,
personal. I get
mm,
angry, I get out of place, and how can you do that? And then, yeah, so the biggest issue I talk about is when I started stopping along the road. Now I had been doing it so many times.
mm.
So I stop along the road and I'm drawing things to detail.
In your
Now,
mind.
the challenge
Mm,
with this is not only was it consuming in terms of mental energy,
mm,
extremely consuming, Sissy,
mm.
it wears you out.
Yeah.
Because then I never had enough. If I drew it and got to perfection, what I thought my mind needed to appreciate, that wasn't enough. I would then redo it and then do it again and then do
Mm.
it again and then do it again and then do it again and again and again and again.
Like you are compelled. You are compelled to do it. That is
Exactly.
an obsession. That's what they call an obsession.
Yeah,
So
you're
there
right.
are people in the audience, obsessions. That's an obsession.
Yeah,
It's an
yeah,
intrusive, it can be an intrusive thought. It can be an image. It can
yeah,
be, usually it's a thought or an image or a feeling that
yeah,
keeps coming.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
you have to do something to relieve the
yeah,
anxiety that this thing brings you. So, and that's a
exactly.
compulsion. So your compulsion was to Your compulsion was also a mental act as well. It was a mental completing
Exactly.
your diagram.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
it
you
was.
had, so
Yeah.
that's an obsession. Something would come to you that you maybe have to do this thing. And then the compulsion is that you must go through this mental imagery in order
Yes.
to relieve that anxiety caused by the
Yes.
obsession.
Yes.
But then
Yeah.
that is short-lived because no sooner have
Yeah.
you done it than you have to do it over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
Equals OCD.
I I'm breathing out because I'm trying to remember those days and they were
Mm,
hard. Because remember, I'm late for class. And I'm aware that I'm late for class because the class is at 8 and I had
yes.
5 minutes to get there. But then my mind tells me I have unfinished business.
Mm,
So I arrived. So that's how I always arrived late for class. I'm 1 hour late. Not that I left home late. No, but along the way, I've been doing stuff.
yeah.
So then people, he's coming in late or so now the fact that I would do these things over and over again and not get done with it is
Yeah.
where I got so consumed. And so now here is the other challenge, Sissy. So if I draw an image to perfection, but then another thought from wherever, because like you say, and I love the way you put it, they're intrusive. They come out of the blue. You don't even know why they even come.
And they're not
Like you like
welcome. Mm,
And they are very unwelcome and unpleasant, and you can't
mm,
control them. You
mm,
just cannot. The thought comes. You try to block your mind. So I always tried like to inhibit myself and be like, okay, I'm going to stand still and this won't come. But my dear, they will come.
mm.
You can't control them, and they are recurrent. So now the challenge came if I am almost getting close to where I want to reach, like satisfaction, or I've drawn this and I've mastered it and I've done well. So I'm happy with myself. So let me move. Now, and as soon as I do that, another thought just crosses my mind. Now, because
Mm,
I get some other thought, either another guy has passed while I was trying to
mm.
draw the other babe,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
a car has passed and I was trying to finish the other tree. Now I
Yes.
would have to start again from
Mm,
scratch.
So you had
Like,
rituals. That sounds like also some sort of rituals. There are certain things you have to do in a certain order, but in your mind, in a
ex
certain order.
ex
And if you're
exactly.
interrupted, go back from the beginning.
Thank you. You've understood it. Perfect.
And was there a specific number of times you had to do these things or just once?
Thank you very much. So I think because, and now because, but I think partly my illness stopped me from, trying to dig up about the illness because I always felt like, and I don't know why, because as a doctor, I should have been much more keen on reading about this. But I think I saw it somewhere recently. It's called what? Compulsive counting. Now
Mm.
counting was my thing. I chose my favorite numbers, my winning
What are your
numbers.
favorite numbers?
So four is my favorite number.
Mm,
And you know where it's coming from?
no.
Crazy. It comes from, when you combine my name with my wife's, because she's CY
Oh.
and Aine. So you say AICY, like those are four
Mm.
letters. So now four became a problem. Then I
Yeah.
think, yeah, then now eight, because eight is a multiple of kind of it was there with the four, it became good. 13 became
Mm,
bad, 11 became bad. Nine is still my worst number up to now. If I want to
mm,
count something that I hate, if I'm doing something that I hate or I have not liked, I will do it 9 times.
mm.
Now, the problem is that 9 times sometimes is not enough because once I tip over to 10, then I have to do up to 18.
11. Up to 18. Okay. Because you said 11,
Yes,
you also meant
like
like,
nine
yeah.
times two. Yes.
Mm.
But then as soon as I reach 18, I realize it's an even number and I shouldn't be punishing it that way. So I'll go up to 27. So I'll do nine times
Oh my
three.
gosh. That
Yeah.
is so exhausting.
Yes. So sometimes
And
you realize
yeah.
I'll do 27 like 27 times in a small
Mm,
city.
mm.
Now, the mind is fully absorbed in that. That's why even a bomb might go off and I will not even know it has gone off because my mind is so deep into the counting.
You mentioned at some point you were in the middle of the road and you could have got
Yes,
knocked even because you are so consumed in
exactly.
your mind. Mm,
Exactly. And that's why I am thankful to God because for all the time I was in Makere and going through all that, I always looked for a safe space. So I still had that bit in me that was able to still find a safe space, either cross the road, and then as soon as I cross the road and I'm sure there's no immediate danger or imminent danger, then I
mm,
start. Now I
mm,
start. As I walk, I start. As I move.
mm,
So there was a bit of sanity that was,
mm,
preserved. So I think that's why I am where I am. Yeah. So
mm,
we've talked about the dreams. So because the dreams could be anything. I dreamt people, passing, slicing my neck with
mm,
machetes. I dreamt
mm,
I dreamt falling off a cliff because now Kawempe
mm,
National Referral Hospital is a what, 8 story or something. So
mm.
I dreamt of one day standing atop of the thing and trying out and seeing. So for
Yes.
me, I would know these things because I would be like, what would happen if I went up there and fell over?
It
But it never
sounds,
happened.
yeah, but it
Yeah,
sounds like also another thing is that there were these fantasies of death, fantasizing around death. That was something I wanted to mention
exactly.
earlier, like the graves and death and dying and um you also sounded like you are a bit depressed. Well, it sounds like depression because going through all this is depressing. You're not sleeping
Yeah,
enough. You don't enjoy things you used to enjoy before. You're self-neglecting because you're talking about how they
yeah,
have dirty dishes in their room. So there was
yeah.
depression there as well. And so when you had these thoughts about death, a lot of thoughts and nightmares, thinking about death, as far as you remember, do you yourself feel like you had thoughts of ending your own life? Did you have like suicide thoughts?
Um, I think yes and no because I never felt like I could inflict so much bodily harm as to kill me. But I felt like I felt like I was always scared of death. I remember the psychiatrist one day told me, why are you too scared of death? Because I was too scared of death to the extent that I always wondered what life would be after I am dead. That's the life I was living.
Mm,
Like my wife will be taken by another guy. I remember, I think that's what came out much, more pronounced because every time I talked to them, I would be like, I don't know what life is going to be. My wife is going to have another man and stuff like that.
mm,
And that's what would worry me. And then she would be like, but you're here with Hannah. No one is dating Hannah. So I do.
mm,
So, but my mind always tended to want to imagine what life will be when
mm,
I am dead. And then I wanted to control the narrative of what life
mm.
will be when I am long dead.
Mm. So it's funny
Yeah.
to me that you are even asked why you worried about death, because in my
Yeah.
opinion, death is the ultimate anxiety cause for everyone, and
Yeah.
it's normal to some extent to
Yeah.
be worried about
Yeah.
death. As soon as you're alive, you don't want to die. Even children, like
Yeah.
at some point, there are stages where you're now afraid of heights. So it's normal to
Yeah.
be afraid of like a death. But I guess it sounds like also for you, we've mentioned depression, OCD, but also anxiety. Now, OCD is an
Yeah.
anxiety disorder, but how it looks like for you, it sounds like you are in the future ever. And for you, your future was, you know how a lot of times anxiety, you're worried about tomorrow, you're worried about your bills. Now for you, you went to the ultimate end of the line. You're the best even in that. You'll have to go to the to the
Yo, thanks,
maximum end of
Sissy.
it. Yeah. Go even beyond afterlife. Your anxiety was, but then also makes it sound like it was more intense. The anxiety,
Yeah.
because anxiety means you're in the future, worrying about future things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
mm,
yeah, and you're very right because I remember one day, so this is before like I really seek treatment. So we've talked about the dreams, we've talked about the compulsive counting. I'll not talk about the doors, doing things repeatedly. Like I
mm.
would close my door, but I would have to close it for the next 1 hour.
How
So
many? A
so I
specific number of
stand
times. Mm.
exactly. So I stand on the door key and lock, unlock, lock, unlock, until my mind feels like I have actually locked.
But would you ever get to
Now,
that point?
no, I would only get to a point, I think, when I'm tired.
Mm.
Like now, the other, should I say, both emotional and physical fatigue weighs in on the other fatigue I'm trying to get from closing the door. Because I would close the door, then go on my bed. And my mind tells me, you've actually closed that door. And I would be very aware that I've closed the door 3 times. But then I would be compelled to get up out of bed and go back and open it and close it again, and go
Mm.
back to bed and get up again and open it again and close it. And the cycle continues. So
So
I
that,
guess then
yeah,
maybe if I start that like at 10 p.m.,
yeah,
then soon I realize it's 1 a.m. Like I've been
yeah,
doing this for 3 hours. That's when
yeah.
it would strike me that, you know what? You've been doing this for too long. Time is catching up with you. You have to wake up early because you have class at 7. So that's now what would cause me now to give in and just black out and sleep.
Mm. So
Yes.
you even had some insight to that level, because a lot of people, they can't even get out of the cycle at all,
Yes.
and they just keep
Yes.
doing it over and over and again, because the OCD is full of multiple moments of anxiety, and then do something, try and relieve anxiety, try and relieve, close the door, close the door, close the door. Closing the door makes you feel better, but only temporarily. Um,
Exactly.
so I feel like you've given us a very good picture of what was going on. So at what
Yeah.
point did you now seek help, or what happened for you to now realize maybe? Mm.
Yeah. So talking about seeking help, thank you, Sissy. So every time I would wake up, now this was also part of the realizations as I led you towards the realization that I was actually ill,
Yeah,
towards now me seeking help. So I would
yeah,
wake up sweating. I would wake up sweating and scared, and it's like I've been running, yet I was sleeping, but it's 5 a.m. and I've just jumped out of nowhere. So I remember going to Najib. You remember Bulgaria Najib? And I'm like, who is really an equally an OB from Makere. So I'm like, Najib, you know what? I think I have high blood pressure. My heart, I have palpitations, I have all these things. And then, of course, he would laugh, Najib. So he would laugh, he'd be like, but you're a young man. How can you be suffering from these things? So he did
yeah,
like a quick check, put his step, did the BPs and everything. And he was like, but you're okay. You're okay.
yeah.
I guess you're just stressed.
Yeah.
So I was suffering, but I think it wasn't clear for people to know that I was actually suffering. So
Yeah.
now, what really tipped me over to now end up going to a psychiatrist was
Yeah.
the first end of semester exams we did, first semester, yeah. First year, first semester. So I sat the ethics paper and wrote answers and then crossed them out. So, like, you know how they set a number, a question, and then they are like, it's 10 marks. So my mind would tell me, okay, I need to put 10 points. Then you're like, okay, I need to put 10 points. So and then they just walk in and they're like, you know what? No, you don't have to do that. So, but I'd done my work. So I'm like, okay, if I just put five, I think they gave us 1 hour for a thing that I thought needed like 5 hours. Because I remember that was also another problem. In my exams, I would always be slow. Because if I write letter A, I want it in a certain way.
And you
If
have
it's
a
not
very
in that,
nice
but
handwriting, but I think it's
see
not
your
nice
life,
enough for
Sissy.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But now you know where it's coming from. So if I wrote
Mm,
letter A, and at this material time, it didn't impress upon me that it's how I would have loved it to be. Then I would cross out the entire word and repeat the word.
mm,
So you can do the math and see how long it would take me to complete a sentence.
mm,
And remember, I'm in a fast-paced examination that requires quick essay answers. So so I would do like 3 lines or 3 sentences, if you want to say, in 2 hours. And
mm,
then I have 1 hour left to answer the rest of the questions and write everything I need to pass. Now so when they would tell me now you have 1 hour to go, that's when it would now dawn on me that you know what, you're actually going to fail because you've only written
mm,
3 sentences for
mm.
2 hours, yet you have all this. So I have everything in my head, but I can't put it down.
Yeah.
So that's how now I start writing very fast. So I remember that exam, I wrote like a chicken, I think, really. If I
Mm.
remember the things,
According
they
to
were
you,
so
but I'm sure
shabby.
it was perfect. Remember, you were even the best. Yeah.
Oh my, see your life. Thank you, Sissy. I tried. Thank you.
Mm,
So quickly, the other thing within me that told me I've written rubbish because of the handwriting not fitting in the way I wanted it to be. Because remember, I'm scribbling things to fit within the 1 hour I have left. So I got a ruler and crossed everything out, all my answer sheets.
mm,
And then the prof was like, you know what? It's time to hand in. You can't write anything. So I'm busy handing in things, yet everything is crossed.
mm,
That's when I got out and started crying. And I was like, okay, I knew what to write. I had all the answers and I wrote them, but I've crossed them out. So I have failed. So I'm going to get a retake. So I'm a failure. I better board the bus back to Bara. I
your
can't do
mind,
this. Life is
your
hard.
mind goes,
It all went south. So I went
mm,
around crying. It feels good that now I am able to hold through it and remember and replay it
mm.
without crying, really,
There was
because
some
I've
time.
mastered,
Mm,
yeah. I've tried to tell my mind, no, you can't go back there. So that's when I walk over to a psychiatrist and tell them all this stuff. And yeah, that's how then they start trying to dig out what's happening with me. And then, yeah, the next thing is, I think the first guy wanted to give me a lot of things. Those things killed me, Sissy. They gave me, I think,
mm,
sertraline. They gave me
mm,
the therapy.
mm.
Yeah,
Before you
those are the
tell
two things I
us,
remember.
before you tell us
Yeah.
what they gave you, what was the diagnosis?
Yeah, so the diagnosis I remember really was generalized anxiety disorder, with, I don't remember what they talked about depression. They said I was turning towards a depressive episode, but I don't remember those things. Sissy, you're the
Mm,
one who knows those things well.
yeah.
So,
Um,
yeah.
so
But
it
I remember
sounds
it
to
was
me, what about
generalized anxiety.
OCD?
Yeah.
OCD, did they say OCD too?
So the OCD didn't come out then. The OCD
Mm,
came out when I went to another psychiatrist who had been
mm,
assigned to me by the department, because
mm,
now I had to let the department know, the head of department, that you know what, I think I'm not okay and I'm suffering. So I think because they wanted to compare notes and be sure that I was not faking it. So that's the other thing about this whole thing. They actually
Mm,
thought that I could be faking it. So they had to talk to the head of department psychiatry, who then sat with me, gave me her time despite her busy schedule, and then came up with that diagnosis of OCD. But you know, that's the whole thing about OCD. Okay, I didn't know if I have to say this. Let me just say it before I switch back to you, sis. So, you know, the whole thing about OCD is everywhere we've been, even in the class we were, people use the term OCD casually. Oh, we all have a bit of OCD because I guess we all overthink some things once in a while
mm,
or tend to be want to be perfect. But then they didn't know that for me, even when I knew that certain things were unpleasant, I couldn't control them. And that
mm,
they were weighing me down and they were taking a lot of my time because for them, every time they would see me in class, they would think I'm attending class. But I'm doing my
mm,
things in my mind. They're teaching, but I'm doing a lot of things in my mind. Yeah. So
mm,
that's when the OCD comes in. And I think, yeah, with an anxiety disorder, I think it was
mm,
OCD, an anxiety disorder. Yeah,
mm.
yeah, I think that was the diagnosis finally that I
And
ended up.
depression, because I feel like by the
Yes,
time, wasn't there depression at all?
there was, yeah. The
Mm,
psychiatrist I ended with the second one, yeah, gave me the diagnosis in that order. OCD
mm,
with an anxiety disorder, with depression in that episode I was in, yes.
yeah. And I think
Yeah,
also it will just help, it goes to show that mental health diagnoses are not that clear cut. It's very,
yeah,
you will appear different at different times. If someone has met
yeah,
you, it's a point in which you're low, you can look like depression. And then
yeah.
after, if they meet you at this other time, it looks like this. Also, you can have, for example, let's say bipolar. I have that example in bipolar because it takes a long time to get a diagnosis of bipolar, like at least 10 years to get that true diagnosis. Because initially,
Mm,
yeah, someone has depression. And then another time, if you take history, they had a manic period or they had a very high period where the mood was extremely, extremely high. So, and the diagnosis don't have
mm,
like blood tests. We don't have like a blood pressure machine where you can check and say 100% you're sure. So things are so, there's a lot of grays and subjectivity
yeah,
and things look different, different people. So don't take this video to diagnose yourselves, please. Go and seek your own help. So yeah, you get this diagnosis because to me it sounds like yeah, there was depression, severe depression in my opinion, even especially with those death fantasies and so they give you tablets, then they give you medication. Then
yeah.
did you
Yeah,
have time
so
off like work or school? Were you allowed any time off
yeah, that was the lucky bit. And that's why I'll always celebrate the head of department at that time. So
of of
yeah,
of
may
obs and
God
gynae?
bless him really.
Mm,
Yeah, Dr. Musa Sechko, the head of department, Obs Ghanaians, because
mm,
he didn't like read through much. I think he probably had a conversation with the psychiatrist, the other side. And he just called me to his office and told me, you know what? Because me, I didn't want to go home. I just
mm,
wanted to be there. I thought this was my new normal of I'm going to do
mm,
this. But then, so he just calls me to his office, and I'm like, "Papa, now what have I done?" So that was the thing. Every time the head of department called you, you would think it's going to be punitive. You've done something
mm,
wrong, and you're going to
mm,
have to answer a question or two. He just called me in graciously. He just said, "You know what, Dr. Ainembabazi, I don't think you can do this any longer. Take your time off. Go home." And that was
mm.
it. And I was like, "Go home? No, I am here. I must do this. I must finish in record time. I'm not going nowhere." And the guy's like, "No, you're not going to stay here. You go home. Go to your wife and sleep." He was like, "You're lucky,"
Sleep.
because the luck I got then was that we didn't have a logbook for the second semester. Like, so he told me, "You can continue studying, attend lectures." We had now started the e-learning and the remote learning mode, Zoom and all. So he was like, "You can do
Mm,
that, attend the lectures because then you'll need to be assessed, but go home. You're off schedule, go home."
mm,
That's the only, when I look back, definitely God does wonders and He did a lot of wonders, but that was the turning point in enabling me to finish the course because after seeing the psychiatrist, I was sure I didn't want to do the course no more. I just wanted to go back home in shame and everything, and
Mm,
tell everyone I failed, I can't do this, I am back. So, but then he told me, hang in there, do this. If you think you can work it out, then yeah. So I got time off. I got time off, went
mm,
and did the medication. Now, the
mm,
medication was also the other challenge because
mm,
then it kind of distorted my sleep patterns. So
mm,
I didn't want to get out of bed.
mm,
Yeah, for me, every time I went to bed, I just wanted to stay in bed. So I started waking up at 2 p.m.
mm.
So I sleep like at 7 p.m., sleep all through the night, 7 a.m. I'm in bed, all through 2 p.m. So by the time the next night comes, I've actually been sleeping the whole day.
Mm,
So then I must go back to bed again.
yeah.
And so then, yeah, so my
Side effect.
sleep patterns got, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, my
And
sleep patterns got diminished, but then But then I made it. Yeah, I just kept taking the meds, then had to find a way of getting my duties covered sometimes because I'm back to school and you have faculty, the rest of faculty that has probably told the HOD if he's going to be a specialist, he can only be when he's on ward. So if he can't be on ward and do duties like the rest, then he has no business here. So it was tough, really. Yeah, that was the other side of the story that, yeah, just hurts me. It was tough because then
mm,
I had to find a way of, because then after when the semester ended, the second semester, I had to come in now because there was a logbook now for year two. So I had to come in and they didn't want to give me some special consideration of knowing that
imagine
maybe
then. Mm,
if I've taken my medication at 10 p.m., then maybe by around 3 a.m., 4 a.m., I want to just be in bed and sleep.
yes.
They just wanted me to do my entire duty and,
Be like
yeah,
anyone
continue
else.
like, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
unfortunate that there are no any like mitigating circumstances. Because over here there are mitigating circumstances. If they are called reasonable adjustments that they make for someone who has some particular condition or something, where they make things in a way that you can manage, you know. So, but it sounds like in Uganda,
Yeah.
anyway, I knew it. In Uganda, who cares? It's like, who cares? Even you having that time off
No
was a
one.
luxury. Mm, you know?
It
So,
was. It was.
mm,
Because when I came back, because when I came back from the time off, um, some of my colleagues were not happy, even faculty. They felt like
mm,
I'd been, handed a
given a
favor,
favor.
kind of like
Mm,
I've been
mm,
treated, not with the same, scale, same
as
spoon
everyone
like the
else.
rest.
Mm,
Yes, so they felt like I'd been favored. Now, the marks that I got in the previous semesters didn't help the situation. They were like, you
mm,
see, he's actually brilliant. He's actually beating the rest. So no way he's faking it. But because now, like the ethics paper, the luck I got was after starting meds, I went and told the prof, everything
mm,
I crossed out were my bona fide answers. Please try and
mm,
mark them.
mm.
And so they were kind. They went and marked the crossed answers and they found some sense in them. And that's how I got the marks that I got. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but if I put my mind to it, and because every time I started my exam, I would pray and tell God, you know what, I have to do
Mm,
this. I can't stay here long.
mm,
Yeah. So it was hard. Fitting in after coming from home was also hard because then people asked me, why were you away? Hmm? Why were you
mm.
away for this whole time? What were you
What did you
doing?
tell
We
them?
had
Mm,
thing.
mm,
No, I told them I was unwell. I was
mm,
unwell. I am mentally unwell. Of
mm.
course, I didn't find it easy because I talked to
Yeah.
like one person, gave it like some 2 weeks, then talked to another,
Yeah. So it was one
and
on
then
one. You didn't hold a conference.
no, it was one on one, yes.
Yes. And
And
how
then
did
sooner
they
than
take
later,
it? Mm,
someone has told someone, and then yeah,
mm.
people get to know, and then yeah,
How did
like
they take it? Did you feel supported by your colleagues?
the only luck I think I got was that I wasn't openly stigmatized. But
Mm,
I'm aware that some of them thought, I had been favored, I needed to do
Mm,
duties, and
mm,
faculty didn't help. But some of them were helpful because some of them kept looking out for me. So some of them started
mm,
giving me rides back home.
mm. So what about your family, your wife and the wider family when you went back home? How did they take the news and how was that support and also if you have an idea how it impacted them? Of course, that's not a question for you, it's for them, but yeah. I've asked you so many things, but you can answer what you remember.
No, you're right, Sisi. So I think I've been lucky. And I realized what the support system can do for you because I had a wife who was quickly understanding. When I told her, I think she felt bad. I don't know what really came to her mind in terms of I have a husband who probably has this condition, and I don't know. But I think by the grace of God, what really helped was I was mostly sane for people. People are used to this whole thing of insanity or mad people to mean someone who's walking naked on the streets and eating,
Mm,
garbage
mm,
and stuff.
mm,
So because I was not doing any of that, I felt like it was easy for people to receive me. But then too, I won't take it for granted because my wife just sat me down and said, okay, if that's what it is, do you think you can still do this?
mm,
We believe in you. We trust you. If you think you can, do it. If you can't, then it's okay. So, but at least
mm,
she gave me the push of hang in there. See if you
mm,
can. If you can't, let go. At least you're
mm,
getting help. And if you're getting help, take your meds well and adhere. And so she would always remind me, have you taken your medicines? It's time.
mm,
So,
mm,
yeah, but for me, so at school, what happened was the I was encouraged to be in the company of people, which I never used to
mm,
do.
mm.
So that's how I ended up joining discussion groups, to kind of be like, um, so I would stay up and discuss with people. So when class would end at 5 or 6, I would not go home if I was not on a night shift.
So you were encouraged to interact with other people. You joined a discussion group, and was there anything else that was helpful in that time? Did they offer psychology or only medication?
I was helped because at that time so in addition to treatment, I was offered psychotherapy. Yes. Yeah, so I think it was what you call it, what? CBT,
Talking
cognitive
therapy,
behavior therapy.
CBT.
Yeah, yeah, CBT. So, but it didn't work for me. It
Did
didn't
you
work.
engage?
It didn't work because, yes, one, I defaulted because of the nature of school.
You were too
So
busy.
I would not
Mm,
show up for sessions sometimes. So,
mm,
and um, but even then, even when the psychologist would be talking to me about these things, and I think if I recall the hot cross buns and
mm.
stuff like that, I would not be there. I'd be
Mm,
doing other things while she's talking to me.
mm. So maybe you were too
Yeah,
unwell
either
at
I'm
that time
drawing
anyway to
her.
engage.
Yes, I because I would be probably even drawing her nose while she's probably talking to me, and she would not know.
Yes.
Yes,
So it was mostly
it was that
medication
bad. So
for you that was helpful.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. So the medication gave me this bit of, you know, at least I was able to sleep. If I chose to sleep, I would sleep.
mm,
Yes, and not, pretend to be sleeping, but then my mind's doing all sorts of things, imageries and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, so
And
that's the advantage I got. Oh, yeah,
what about
yeah.
the thoughts,
So
anxiety? Did that come down?
so that reduced, but it stayed on.
Mm,
It really stayed on for the better part because I still did a whole host of things. The everything that I talked about already, I
mm,
still did much more.
mm,
Actually, at some point, I asked myself whether the medicine was working or not. I felt like it
mm,
wasn't. Yeah,
mm,
that's like the honest bit of it. I felt like the medicine
mm,
wasn't working. I felt like I still needed to be in my groove to do what I know how to do best, which
mm,
is count things and draw
mm,
things and yeah.
mm.
So
So OCD
yeah.
can be very hard, very hard to
Yeah.
treat. It
Yeah.
needs combined effort of both
Yeah.
medication and
Yeah.
also talking therapy and
Yeah.
also the social side of it, which is, for example, for you, you are in that high stress environment. And
Yes.
so when you moved out, was it helpful? Is it better? Like having graduated and
Honestly,
finished?
honestly, I want to think, by the even still at school, when the anatomy paper got out of my way, anatomy, you can
Mm,
imagine I can pin it out to that paper. When I felt like I am sure, because people had said anatomy, you are guaranteed of a retake. So I was like, okay, I didn't come here to get retake. So as soon as that went out of my way, and I felt like, okay, then people started giving positive vibes of now we've crossed over to towards the end of the course. Maybe now you might not fail, except if you're indisciplined, but at least you'll get some marks to pass you over.
mm,
Now that gave me confidence of I was not going to fail. So that kind
mm,
of gave me some relief. So I felt like,
mm,
okay, I can actually begin to enjoy myself a bit and
mm,
just be happy, take it in
mm,
one stride. So that helped. When that, presumption of failure, the presumption of failure went away, then I felt better.
mm,
But then, of course, completing the course, I think for me has been the therapy. When
mm.
I finished the course and came back home and felt like I can schedule my routine. If I'm going to bed at 8, I am going to bed at 8. And I will gladly put my phone in silence and sleep.
You have more control
Because
over your life.
exactly,
Mm,
exactly. They
mm.
told me about this whole stuff of exercising and stuff. But
Yes,
for me,
but me
I didn't have the
exercise.
time. I didn't have the time. I didn't have the time. Trust. Even now, I am defaulting on it, and yet it's been emphasized to me that I need to do it
Please,
as
please.
education.
Let me tell you
But because
about exercise.
because
Go
you're
on.
running jobs, two jobs, you're running here and there, trying, so I lose time. But then I think I'm also indisciplined because even when I have the time, I don't do it.
So just to encourage you or anyone who's watching, exercising at least 3 times a week, even just 30 minutes a week, even as simple as just walking, jogging, is as effective as
Yeah,
antidepressants for mild to
yeah,
moderate, for example, depression. And the more intense the exercise is, the better, the more benefits you get out of it. But it has to be at least 20 minutes because it's after the 20-minute points that your brain starts to release the endorphins, which are doing what, against
yeah.
anxiety, against lifting your mood, all these things.
Mm,
So do consider
mm,
it.
mm.
And I was going to ask you, because we're running out of time, we've lost light. If there's someone
Yeah.
out there who could be in this situation that you're in, or I guess if you could advise yourself now that you've been through all this with what you know now, if you could advise your previous version of yourself, what advice would you give them?
For me, I think it's hard. I don't know if I'm able to give advice, Sissy, because for me, I think the first of all, the issue is in knowing and interpreting the signs. The signs were there, even from when I was young, but they were never
Mm,
interpreted for me.
can
Because
you tell
recently,
us?
for
Mm-hmm,
example,
mm-hmm.
my mother recently was talking about, I think they asked her about my son, so who is like her grandson, about how he gets irritable and annoyed and stuff. And so she told them, I think my wife asked my mother about who I was when I was young. Yeah. Yeah. So my mother kind of um, gave this whole thing of, yeah, I always used to throw tantrums, and maybe my anger sometimes was not commensurate to what had happened to me. Then I would hit my head on the floor and I hear make all these sorts of things. So that's when I realized that I actually have an anger problem. But for me, I always had an anger problem, but I would not know that it had a lot to do with who I was. So then cramming, I've realized that I'm a crammer. I am a hardcore crammer. In high school, if they taught me this is how a refrigerator works in physics, I must reproduce it in the exam, the exact word by word, full stop by full stop. So I will understand the concept and make it my own, but I always felt like it can only give me full marks if I give it to the teacher the way it was dictated to me in class. So that's me. So things were there. But for me, all I can say is I think, like you've already said, if you're looking for advice, for me, it has a lot to do with know who you are, I think. If people are telling you things that sometimes seem like they're unusual, I think it's good to explore them
Mm,
gently. You may not really need to be alarmed and maybe people throw you over the cliff, but I think it's good sometimes to maybe think through it. I don't know. I don't know if someone can do that consciously about themselves. But then
mm,
looking back, I also realized that it's very important to know when we're trying too hard. I think
yes.
it's good to kind of come to that point of realizing that life, yes, life requires us to hustle and work so hard and work our socks off. But I think sometimes it's good to know who you are and know when you're doing it too hard. I went too hard and I didn't even know I was going too hard. I was only lucky because for me, it wasn't too bad. I still had some insight, like you said. So for me, it kind of helped me to seek care. So, and then three is when you have a person like Sissy, Dr. Sissy around you, use them. Yeah. Because Dr. Sissy will tell you a lot about you that you do not know because she's read this, she's an expert at this, she's proficient in it.
Mm.
So seeking care from a
Seek
professional,
professional help. Mm.
yes, from a professional to kind of tell you whether you're actually normal or you're maybe overreading into it, or whether you actually have a challenge. Okay, you're normal, but
We're all
I don't want
normal.
to say abnormal. Yeah, I realized I quickly stigmatized
Yes,
the whole thing.
yes. We're
Yeah,
all normal.
so
There's no normal. Like everyone is different. Yeah.
exactly. So
Mm,
yeah, but then of course for me now, maybe moving forward, the trick is how do I get to do what minimizes the triggers? Yeah,
knowing your
which
triggers
is
as well.
yes, because now I know my triggers, but the work that I do, because
Go on, go on,
compared
go
to
on.
them, is that
Mm,
I'm able to quickly realize that this is hitting me. Because, and like I've read something little, of course, for me, I'm also just trying to read like a rookie. I'm not like you, Cece, who is an
mm,
expert at this. So,
mm.
like the whole thing of accepting that a thought has come to your mind, because the challenge that I got with starting out was a thought would come to my mind, the intrusive thoughts you talked about.
Yeah.
But you quickly want to tell yourself, no, this can't be, rather than accepting that it has actually happened, but then maybe it's not real. So it's fine. The more I tried to tell myself this didn't cross my mind, the more it was relentless.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now I have better power to tell myself, you know what? It has come.
Mm,
It's not true.
mm,
Let me move on. Although I fail once in a while and many times, but I try to. Yeah.
mm. So
Yeah.
your work is also triggering. I
Yes.
pray for you that you might get something that you may get to go where you're supposed to be at the end of that day.
That's
Although
my prayer too.
to
Yeah.
to get where you're supposed to be. But also you've talked about you try, sometimes you fail, but that is the nature of life for everyone, is that
Yeah.
and also recovery is not linear, that you become better, 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 never looking back. Usually you got better, there are ups and downs, but the general
Yeah.
trend overall is in getting better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so thank you so much for coming. We've run out of time and light, but I'm really sure your video is going to impact a lot of people. And I think if you want any other comments, anything you want to tell anyone who's watching.
Yeah. Thank you, Sissy. Mine is to first appreciate you for, you know, giving me the safe space to talk about this because I've tried to stay away from it because initially I thought you heal better by concealing things, but I
Hmm.
realized that no, it's a short life and life has a lot about it, and maybe sometimes when you let out like this, because I feel better, and that's why even when you, Dr. Sisi, when you're trying to talk to me about doing this, I always kind of felt, ambivalent about it. Do I do it? Do I not do it? But when I got into my stride, I felt like this is okay. I can actually talk about this and
Yeah.
be comfortable with it. And yeah, so for me, just to tell people, it also helped me to realize that I'm not any special.
Hmm.
Yeah. I am in the same body that many other people are in, and it's the
Yes.
same body that,
It
suffers.
can happen
So
to anyone.
exactly.
We had talked about
So
it before. It, mm,
I always felt like I was special and everything, but it's been humbling. It's been humbling
mm,
to let me know that I've had so many good things go my way,
yes,
but this is not necessarily the worst of it all that came
that
my
can
way that should
happen.
make me feel like, yeah, I was worthless. Yeah.
Yes,
But I'm
yes,
positive, and yeah, I can only encourage people to just be open about it, encourage people
yes,
to embrace this more and understand that these things actually happen. They happen to our loved ones. They happen closer to home than we actually sometimes think they do.
yes, yes,
And it's if we can only make the world a better place by supporting one another. At my workplace, I haven't talked about this at all.
yes. So there's still some feelings of shame around it then.
Yeah,
Um,
because I do not know how they are going to perceive it.
mm,
You still have that ego within you that tells you no. They cannot
mm,
know about this.
mm.
No, I can't do this. So yeah, but I guess God is good all the time anyway. So
I mean,
yeah,
and also I wanted to say that shame makes us not want to talk about things, but the more
yeah,
things are hidden, the more that feeling of shame grows, which usually is not
yeah,
even, it's like a misplaced feeling. It's like
yeah,
internalized stigma of some sort, eh?
yeah,
And so by
yeah.
talking about it, I think you're releasing yourself from some of that at least
Yeah, so
through
it's been
some
ugly. It's
thoughts.
been ugly. People might see
Mm.
me talk
I
about
think
this,
it's,
but
yeah, it's
it's
not that
been,
easy.
yeah.
Yeah. And also I was going to say something which earlier you had said once you left the course, it's like you were in a toxic relationship with the maid, or you are like in an abusive relationship whereby once you leave your abuser, you're going to get better. So it's important to
That,
recognize the social stressors where you might be
yes,
a toxic environment. And actually, if you leave that environment, maybe you might actually,
yes.
mm, I think that's what.
That's true. That's true. Yes. So I agree with you. Knowing what makes you go berserk, really, that's very
Triggers.
important. For me,
Mm,
I now know, for example, WhatsApp, I've had to scale down. For example, at work, I've had to quit some groups.
mm,
And it's come off as irresponsible because they're thinking he's an obstetrician. He's supposed to be leading the teams, the midwives, and
mm.
all.
But you're
And
prioritizing your own mental
how is
health.
he going off WhatsApp? Exactly, because I want to limit my mind to stuff that makes me happy.
Thank you very much. On that note, we shall end on the note of you taking care of yourself. And if you're out there, at least take care of yourself. Even me, I no longer watch the news, generally speaking, because I don't need that anxiety in my life. Eh? At the end of the day, if something is that big, I'll find out. Eh? So, thank you very much again, Buhamizo. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and see you in my next one. Bye.
Bye bye, Sissy. Thank you so much. Blessings.
So, let me start.